Thank you for the beautiful songs and your wonderful voices joining together in memory of Shruti. Just a message for those of you who come in on this side. There are more chairs on this side, so you can come in and fill up the spaces. Now, the reason we can sing that song that we just sung, although it was written and sung first 400 years ago, is because it was written down. Writing things down is very important. And if Shruti's life means such a great deal to us, then it must mean a great deal to people who come in the future. Shruti was one of the people who made this beautiful Bhaktivedanta Manor, and now the Haveli, and all the different teams and departments and projects that make it up accessible to the population of the future. So we would like to remember Shruti not just for now, but for all time. So if you have something that you've written, we will be compiling those pieces of writing. If you've spoken, we'll be transcribing that and putting that into a biography for Shruti. So it'll be a wonderful book about his life. And now I'd like to invite Divyanam to come and make a little memory.
Hare Krishna. I'd like to read my offering to dear Shruti Prabhu. Dear Shruti Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I'm an insignificant servant amongst all these elevated Vaishnavas who have dedicated their lives in this moment, and they've been glorifying you for your wonderful, glorious qualities. Nevertheless, I would like to express my gratitude for how amazingly you have touched our life. In 2013, when we were faced with some difficulties back in India, just over a short phone call, you assured us to come back to UK and everything will be all right, including our concerns for our children's schooling, our association, and our overall well-being. Indeed, that one call from you made all the difference in our life, and we arrived back in UK to be welcomed by you and other devotees at Bhaktivedanta Manor community. You personally took charge of our well-being and helped us in every possible way to give us the most needed support and the new start in our spiritual life here at Bhaktivedanta Manor. You requested His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj to give us shiksha and guidance so we can make further progress, and you also handed over to us to our respective mentors. I can still very well recall that you personally took me around Krishna Avanti school to show me and introduce me to the various teachers and other parents. When my wife Rindarika Ramaya had the good fortune to be under the guidance of her mentor, her Grace Sri Radhika Mataji, and she felt from the day one protected and nourished in her spiritual life. When she brought out the challenges we faced with Sri Radhika Mataji, she was extremely supportive and ensured that I get some guidance, or rather chastisement, from Shruti Prabhu on this matter. With so many responsibilities at your stake, you still took time to call me in your office for personal meeting to instruct me that how important it is to cooperate in the family life. You helped us to take the most important decision in our life of accepting our spiritual master, His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu, by taking me with hand to His Holiness Radha Swami so I could seek the guidance and gain some clarity in order to make this most important decision of our life. I can still feel the firm grip of your hands, Shruti Prabhu, full of warmth and affection that day. You were certainly our Pad Pradakshak Guru. One day, being inspired by a lecture of my spiritual master, both myself and my wife ran into your office, asking for your blessings to start an initiative to distribute Srila Prabhupada's sets of books through a project called Gomatsya. You looked at me very gravely and said, "You are about to take on a marathon, and this will require a lot of sacrifice. If you are up for it, then you have my blessings." I'm pleased to say, Shruti Prabhu, that since then, not only us, but many devotees in our congregation have come forward to support us, and not just one project. We have over 6 projects running in the Sankirtan initiatives at Bhaktivedanta Manor. Your glorious departure, as described by His Grace Gauri Prabhu, has left some profound effect in our lives. And my small reflection is that Lord is pleased when He is glorified. However, He is more pleased when His devotee is glorified. I do honestly think that there could have been no better way to open Sri Krishna Haveli, for which you have worked hard with other devotees, than this, which is through your glorification, Shruti Prabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would surely be most pleased on this God Purnima festival. Shruti Prabhu, I'm certainly a failure for not having performed any personal service to you while you were walking this planet. However, I do have one hope, which is to serve those who served you with some vigor and enthusiasm and profound conviction in the words of Srila Prabhupada that the best way to please a devotee is to follow his instructions. Bhaktivinoda Thakur comments that he reasons ill who tells that a Vaishnava die. When you though art living still in sound, the Vaishnavas die to live, and living try to spread the holy names. Taking the inspiration from all your instructions and affection you have showered on us, we will do what you had mentioned once while, in fact it was just played in this video just now, quoting Srila Prabhupada, that his problem was that he could never think small, and he wanted us to think big, and so did you, Shruti Prabhu. Hence we will push some boundaries and do some serious damage to the material energy through the resounding sound of Brihad Mridanga here at Bhaktivedanta Manor, which we sincerely hope will be heard by you while you continue to serve Shri Radha Gokulananda in Golok Vrindavan. Just to bring things in perspective in today's world, coronavirus is only a fractional representation of the material energy of the Lord. However, your life will be a great example to us and many for spreading the coronavirus, life full of compassion, which is meant for serving others. Your aspiring servants, Divyanam Das, Vindarika Ramya Dasi, and the entire Sankirtan team at Bhaktivedanta Manor.
Now, sometimes one person is a teacher in a friendship, and another person is a student. Then one person becomes the student, and the other becomes the teacher. Shruti and Prana were definitely men of God, but who was the godfather? Who was the teacher and who was the student? Sometimes you couldn't tell who was being guided by who. Please put your hands together and welcome Rameshwara Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, I'm not used to speaking, so please excuse me from the beginning. You know, when we are paying homage, all of a sudden something came to my mind. You know, when a person is departed, all of a sudden we realize the value. Even though we knew, but we realized in a better way, and and then thought came. There's been a group at the manor. So many people who are giving dedicated service, but we don't have time to appreciate them, and at that particular stage to appreciate their value and say thank you to them. So just as well request, see the better part of people who are serving you. And I've been privileged to work with a lot of people who give selfless service to the manor. And I feel that it was a privilege to work with them, and of all the people, Shruti will come first in my mind. So that's how I'll start my talk. I've written a lot of, so please bear with me. First of all, I thank the families for allowing me and the committee to allowing me to speak. I might have given a lot of pain as I'm a bit stubborn, and I do give pain to people, and Shruti must have had something from me as well, but it was never meant in a bad way. There were, Prana and Shruti, you can't separate. When you talk of Shruti, you have to talk of Prana. It's in a way, I would say, when you talk of Ram, you talk of Lakshman. One is wise, giving you, values. The other one is the active one, who is doing all the work. Same way, I feel this duo did the work and encourage us into doing what normally we would not have been able to achieve personally. Why? Because there was nobody to encourage you. When in this video he said, think big. And unless there is somebody to guide you to think that way, you will always remain in that small shell. So, I'll go from there. Because my wife told me, please don't read it, just try to speak. So that's what I'm trying to do. She won't like it, but when I say that I'm getting old, my memory is fading. So, I might mention some dates which might not fit into the calendar. But, I came across all these people somewhere in early 80s. I used to visit temple, but I didn't know why I was coming, because I'm a Jain background, and from a where there's no deities. There are two different paths in Jainism. One believes in deities, the other one doesn't. But I didn't know about Jainism, and I didn't know about Krishna. So my journey started here. I used to come in 70s, but in 80s, I saw this big board that this temple will be closed unless we renovate the kitchen. And that's where this fool got involved. And ever since, I think Prana and Shruti must have thought this is a sacrificial goat. In Gujarati say, a bakroa, my goat. As a fool, I said, I'll try to raise the money. This is the first time I've joined any sort of community or anything, and I don't know much about anything, but yeah, I said, I'll try to do it. And Krishna helped me to do it. And ever since they thought I was a fundraiser. In my heart, I know that I'm an official beggar. I beg. And somehow or the other, Krishna provides for it. Yeah, I had privilege to have a lot of time with both of them, Prana and Shruti. During December marathons, they used to come and stay with me sometimes. And, as usual, Shruti will be getting up early, reading. Prana, like me, was lazy and get up late. And they will disappear. Most of the time they will have their meals wherever they were visiting, but once in a while they will call me or Krishangi. Oh, can you make Marus Bhajia and other savories? That was his favorite, Marus Bhajia. So Krishangi will make, but I was happy because that was my favorite as well. That's how life was. And one quality of Shruti, which was very prominent, was even though he knew there was something which will be done, but he wanted to give importance to somebody else. And I'll give you a simple example. When it was time to do start project for Krishna Avanti, he spoke to me because the project was 2.5 million, and the committee, Navin Krishna, etc., I relied on a person, or not a person, but a group of people from where the money was going to come. But to whatever reason, we looted that money. So that money was not in the pot. So Shruti spoke to me on the side, saying, Rameshwar, what do you think? Can we do this project? And I said, because I love education, I said, yes, we can do it. So the idea was his, but in order to give importance to me, he sent Navin Krishna to me. Said, Navin, Rameshwar is the one who will help to make this decision. And that's how, we took on this project of 2.5 billion. But that's his quality, to make you important. so that, other people feel better. And, I can go on about other things, but I will leave it out because it's like a Ramayana I've written. Right, one thing I remember is Prana, myself, and I forget another devotee's name. See, I'm old now. We were fasting in front of Liberal Party. We sat there for 7 days and fasted. But Shruti used to visit us. But C.B. Patel came and said, just fasting by itself is not sufficient. We should be doing something more whereby there is public awareness. So he said, we will have farners, I don't know what is called, a lamp, and everybody will carry a lamp and we'll go to houses of parliament and we'll crawl around looking for justice, a British justice. That's how it was. So we were all struggling, and here is Shruti on his all four, crawling like a spider, That was Shruti, yeah. And then I come to like Janmashtami, like Krishna Puna said before me, he will put on his rags and he will be on the field trying to help you as much as he can. And that encouraged all of us to work. That was his quality. And there are, I'm told there are 1,600 volunteers. I bet you he knew each of them. He would know their name. Why? Because he will go to every place to encourage people. You're doing a great job. And he knew the names. He knew what you were doing. And he will encourage you. Now, the other thing comes to my mind is, he was very reluctant to take any post. To make him temple president was a mammoth task for us. But, soon after, he made sure that most of the responsibility was transferred to managing director who could, take the reign, because he himself didn't want to get involved with things. So this is the quality of a leader who wants nothing for himself but give credit to others and encourage others to do greater things than they provide you with a platform from which you can do a lot of things. For myself, I can say, when I wanted to build schools in Vrindavan, he was the first one. Even though, I don't know if Nila is here or not. Nila was objecting, why you want to do something away from the manor? Whatever you want to do, you do for here at the manor. And I said, no, education is in my heart. And Shruti was the first one to say, Rameshwar, go ahead and do it. Now, if I didn't have those sort of encouragement, there wouldn't be schools. They would in Vrindavan, Mayapur, everywhere. So I thank him to give me this platform, to encourage me. And I really miss him. So from my heart, I say, Shruti, please keep a place for me, because I just say last thing here, that, I always used to joke with him. I said, Shruti, because of you, I've given away a lot of my wealth. And you promised me, for all I do, I will, have a place at Krishna's lotus feet. I said, because I'm older, so if I go up there, and if Krishna hasn't given me a place, or if Krishna is not there, I'll come and haunt you. what was his answer? He said, Rameshwar, listen, if there is no Krishna, that means there is nothing. Then there is no way you can come and haunt me. I say, yeah, that makes sense. But, in my heart, I ever felt that he is the one who was always giving me nectar and I was giving him pain. But, I will not give him pain anymore, but I say I love you and I always love you. And Prana, I love you as well. Very good.
Yes. Education is very important. It's very interesting that the big projects that we've been talking about tonight, they begin with a small step. And invariably that small step begins with a seed, and the seed is often encouragement. And many of you have spoken about how Shruti was a great encourager. To give encouragement means to give courage. It means there's always fear in taking the next step. And one big step, of course, was the Avanti Trust, the Krishna Avanti schools that began some years ago. So please welcome to the stage Usha, who's the Avanti Trust Educational Director.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you. I want to pay a tribute, but also say a very massive thank you. My gratitude to Srila Prabhu for all he gave us, gave me, and the path that he showed me and introduced me to. I want to just begin by saying, in thinking about my gratitude today, I didn't quite know where to begin. And I begin by sharing with you my personal feelings of tremendous loss that I feel. I think the void that was felt by a lot of us over the period that Srila Prabhu wasn't quite available to us to see him materially, and to see less of him, how clever of him to have got us used to that before he made his final journey altogether. In a somewhat selfish and I think in a very ignorant way, I do feel a little rather less. But I also know that with deeper contemplation and with Krishna's mercy and with Srila Prabhu's mercy, it is possible to move from an emotional and a superficial response that we often have in the first instance to loss and great losses, such as the one that we are all sharing today. It is possible to move to the path of Krishna consciousness, which teaches you better than to live in mourning and move on with life in the way we ought to be living it. And much of that learning and teaching came to me from Srila Prabhu. I first met him when I came to work for Avanti Schools Trust. And it felt like we had met before, and we knew each other already. And we became closer and interacted with each other in ways that made sense when I thought about it in retrospect, because it came from our conversations when I would share with me my images and my memory of my father's engagement with Srila Prabhupada in India as a child, and he would be in conversations and in discourses with Srila Prabhupada before he came abroad. And I think that was a strong connect that we established together between ourselves. Srila Prabhu was my mentor, he was my teacher, he was my wise counsel, he was my spiritual master and a wonderful guide to me mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and in all manners of encouragement that he always gave me, so that I could not fall behind in what he was trying to guide me towards. He had this exceptional quality, and I want to just mention some of my experiences in terms of Srila Prabhu's relationships and in his abilities to engage with no matter who, no matter where, with equal ease. It was pretty exceptional. And whoever he came into contact with, he would give them, and we've heard lots of examples while I've been listening to everybody paying homage to Srila Prabhu about how much he cared for whoever he came across. He left everybody feeling like he was their best friend, and he was the person who would care for anybody and everybody. And I think what happened for Avanti schools, he played an enormously valuable and strong part in, along with, of course, in Krishna Prabhu. They were pivotal in making sure that the development of Avanti schools, communities, the schools grow as Krishna conscious communities. And I think that is an absolutely phenomenal achievement if you look at where those schools are. I remember that at the start of each term, we would invite Srila Prabhu, and this is how comfortable and at ease he was no matter what his audience. Srila Prabhu was not, his background was not in education. He came to us, the beginning of every term we would invite him. We would have a staff, would have a prayer meeting, and after our prayer meeting, Srila Prabhu would speak to the teachers to inspire them, to guide them, to provide them spiritual impetus by reminding them what the task was. This was no normal school, this was no ordinary school. And that played a really very important part in us being able to raise the children who came to our schools to this day with growing up with the values that are our values here as Krishna conscious communities beyond the schools as well. I think in the conversations with the senior leaders, he was equally eloquent in steering them along the path of Krishna consciousness, bearing in mind that people who teach in our schools are not always all Hindu, are not all from our own backgrounds, ethnically and culturally either. But similarly, for school assemblies, he was equally at ease with the children. He would tell them stories, and from stories came many of his teachings. And those teachings children could refer to. And they would make references to the conclusions that Srila Prabhu would draw from these stories in their own conversations, especially when they were chastising each other. Of course, they get very moralistic for those times, children. So I think in terms of in the way, and I think somebody earlier referred to it as well, what was my everlasting memories of Srila Prabhu will be watching with great delight, an immense pride, and with a smile on my face always, somehow, from somewhere, wherever we were, whether it was in the House of Commons, or it was in the House of Lords, or it was at the Abbey, wherever we were at these important places, from somewhere, Srila Prabhu's radiant face, small man, amazing, invariably amidst very tall white men with grey suits, he would just pop up from somewhere and be there, and you were saying earlier, on the stage, making his presentations, and somehow always getting representation of Avanti children to these very important occasions, whether it was 10 Downing Street celebrating Diwali festival, our children were there. So he gave the children the place, the exposure. He gave Avanti the exposure for what it is. And I think that was the kind of ability he had to communicate, to engage, to actually get into those conversations, whoever, whatever the age, whether a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old or a temple gathering congregation, always there with the high and mighty of this land. He didn't hesitate either. And those of you who were here for the groundbreaking ceremony of this Haveli, you'll remember David Cameron, the running Prime Minister at the time, was here. And those were the kinds of privileges that he brought to our community. And it was all about service, of course. It was never for himself. And that is probably the biggest lesson that I learned from Shruti Prabhu, and it will stay with me. He leaves us tremendous legacies, tremendous in the hundreds and thousands of children in Avanti schools at the moment. They're all on paths of Krishna consciousness is our dream and our ambition, and no doubt it will happen too. He leaves us with the challenge, and he talks about big things, and that is the challenge, not to give up on those big things as a community ourselves. He also leaves us to bear in mind that there are some lofty ambitions we can. Haveli is not the end of it. There are more ambitions we must have for Krishna consciousness and spreading it in the best way that we can to meet Srila Prabhupada's dream. So I just want to say to you that I want us to think about, and of course he gave instructions to me too. And I know I must follow them because he will be watching, and wherever he is, he watched and he chased you if you didn't meet those. And we heard about that as well. I think most importantly for all of us, his teaching will stay true till all of us go off on our onward journeys. And that was that the only valid life is the life of serving, and serving the Lord and our love for Krishna. Hare Krishna.
In connection with my appeal to you to pass on your written offerings, can I introduce you to Sandipan Krishna, who's just waving at you at the moment. He will take those offerings. However, we also have a table out in the hallway, and you can make a note if you haven't written something yet. You can leave a note or a message in a book. I'm also duty bound to inform you that prasadam will be served quite shortly. Maybe small batches of people can go at one time. The head pujari of Bhaktivedanta Manor is a very important position. He funnels, you could say, the ceremonial functions of connection between the congregation and the Lord. But what we haven't touched upon as yet is Shruti's participation in the regular worship of Radha Gokulananda. He was a regular on the altar. So let us hear now from our head pujari, Gadadhar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, everyone. How I met Shruti first. This was at the Hindu temple in Leicester, 1981. And that time, the brahmacharis, Srutidharma, Pranabandhu, Gokapuri, Godrugna, they were doing Sankirtan. One of them came to my house and gave me a book. I went over to see them at the Hindu temple, and that's when I met Shruti. And I thought, wow, this guy is absolutely amazing. He was a young boy, similar to my age, and at that time he was working in Orchid Park Hospital. And I thought, these guys got something which I don't have. And I thought, they're so happy, and they're all young kids, all wearing saffron. And I remember to this day, Gokapuri made a pasta with ghee, and that was wow, I've never had it. A few days later, they took me to the Jani family's Nityananda's Aquarius Day Festival. It was at the house, and this is the first time I've ever had about 27 different preps. My stomach swelled up. I could not ride home that day. And I thought, hang on a minute, this is something that I need to do. I left home, never ever looked back. As time went on, I got to know Shruti quite well, and I was very, very impressed by his intelligence. He was always interesting to hear what he had to say. One thing that I look forward to on the festival days, Ram Navami, Gopani, Janmashtami, Srila Prabhupada's Appearance Day, Shruti would make an announcement, and I'll sit there and listen what he had to say. He was very, 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 like, wow, I've not heard this before, I've not heard this before. He would always something new, something enlightening, something interesting. Even when he went to the funeral, there was Pranabandhu doing the Gujarati version, Srutidharma do with English version, and he would bring up stories that you've never ever heard. As some of you know, his name, Shruti, means one who hears and remembers. The guy had an amazing memory. He was always there. Don't know how he made it. Sometimes we talk about devotees having 8 mystical yoga systems he can manifest. He was there for Mangalati, then he'd be here there for that program, this program, that program, but always there. Sometimes I wonder if he ever slept. Afterwards, on the festival days, many times he would come, especially on big festival like Janmashtami, Gokulananda, Govardhan Puja and Diwali. He would be there, and in the corridors, Anabandha and Srutidharma would receive all the guests. Some Mubarak, Happy New Year, some Mubarak, Happy New Year. He led by example, and that was very, very inspiring. Not only for many years, he came every Tuesday morning, woke the deities up, offered Mangalati. Sometimes Prana had to go at me. He says, "Why are you getting him to do this? You have enough people." I said, "He wants to do it." He would wake up, even though GPT was there, he would wake up, come and wake the deities up, offer Mangalati, then he'd be gone. Every festival, he was always there for the Abhishek. He would do the Abhishek and then leave. And he was so inspired. He would come in, give his comment on the deities, how they're dressed and how they're having, and he gives some advice. And I used to look forward to that, because this is one thing that I miss on a festival day, that Shruti would come, say some announcement, and you think, whoa, that's good. And then you would repeat that to so many others after that. Also, surprisingly, not many people know this, he also learned how to dress the deities. Many of my pujaris don't know that. He learned how to dress Radha Krishna. He learned how to dress Gonitai. And he also learned how to cook some breakfast offering if he had to. So he was a man of many talents. Sometimes what people don't know, we talk about marathons. Just now we are talking about marathons. Little does he know the marathons that Srutidharma and Praabhu did. And only God knows how many Bhagavatam sets and CC sets they distributed. And they won many, many marathons. I remember one time I was doing a camp program with the ladies, and it was Praabhu and Srutidharma doing their marathon. We were neck and neck, but still, we managed to collect 20,000, and they managed to collect 25,000. Not only as a temple president and as a Sankirtan leader, he set by example, he led by example. I like to say that Shruti was always there for me. When I was getting married, he was there to receive me as a brahmachari. He was there for my wedding day. Kandidi was there, Jai Krishna was there. We took Srila Prabhupada on that day on the front lawn, which we've never ever done. Shruti was there for my daughter, Prajmohini and Radha Damodar, when they got initiated and when they got married. He was also there for my younger daughter, Gokulananda, when she got initiated recently. So he's been there with my family for many years. Some time ago, when Shruti was sick, I had a service opportunity to serve him every Thursday morning, to go to the house and take care of him. So what happened one day, I would go there and sometimes Shruti goes, "Hey, it's great, you know what? I'm living next door to you." Well, he says, "I'm living next door to you. It's amazing how I'm living next door to their Vijaya." And I just kept quiet. That time, I asked Shruti's wife, I said, "Hey, Shruti, you want to come for Prashadam?" He looked and asked Radhika, says, "Can I take him, please?" That time he's mobile. So I said, "Sure, let me take a shower." And he said, "Who should I bring?" He said, "I'm Sheila." My wife questioned, he said, "Can we take Giriraj?" I said, "That'll be good." So we rushed over to the temple. On the altar was Rishikesh and Anand Kumar. I said, let's grab the deities. Let's go over. I rang Gauri Prabhu and I said, "We're bringing over." And we brought the deities over. I placed Ram Srila on his head, then Giriraj, then Shishi Goritai, and placed him on the table, and Gori led him kirtan, and that was so nice. Afterwards, we had to go back, so I said, can I leave my Giriraj here? And he said, yes. I put Giriraj one side of the pillar, Ram Srila on the other side of the pillar, then we all went back. And I came back and I knew that I'd forgotten doing a garland. So there was a garland of Radha Gokulananda. I took that, went back, put the garland on him, and a few minutes later he departed. I like to think, my way of thinking is, it was great little service that I did for him, but maybe it was Radha Gokulananda's or Srutidharma's great desire to see Radha Gokulananda, and Radha Gokulananda's great desire to serve his devotees as well. And as many of us say, somebody texted me the other day on Gokulananda Festival. He said, I think it's cancelled, you know that, don't you? He says, yeah, because now we're going to celebrate it for the real purpose. And the real purpose is here today for the celebration of Srutidharma Prabhu. Srutidharma Prabhu ki! Yeah.
Beautiful. So many exchanges. We're now going to hear from someone who was caring for Shruti in different ways and who really responded to his association over the past few years. Please welcome Dr. Sundarananda Prabhu.
Shruti Prabhu, my dearest friend and my mentor. I'm going to speak from my heart, so I'm not going to be able to finish this, what I have to say, so bear with me. How did I first meet him? So, when I was growing up, my father used to take me every Tuesday to this Hanuman Mandir. And if the pujari came to us with a smiling face, there was a price tag attached to it. Not for him, but get the roof made or something else. So I grew up with the fact that anybody coming from the temple with a smile, there's a price tag. So my wife told Shruti and Prabhu that he's not going to listen to anybody else. He has this problem with the wavelength. You'll have to come home and talk to him. So they came along, and I'm looking at them with a very skeptical mind. They're smiling, coming from the temple. There's a price tag. The first time they came, they didn't say anything. I said, this is really deep. Second time they came and they brought this beautiful Radha Gokulananda picture and still didn't ask anything. I said, they may have a very, very deep strategy. And third time they came and they said, oh, have you read Bhagavad Gita? I said, yeah, of course. Anybody from India reads Bhagavad Gita. Which one? He said, we read Gita Pur Press. He said, no, you should read this, Bhagavad Gita as it is. And I said, wow, that's it. They want me to read this because there's something in it will convert me. And of course, that's history. That's how I first met him. So he involved with me with my first service, and he said, there's this guru, Radhanath Swami, who's obviously my spiritual master now. He said he has a health problem and he needs to talk. So we talked, and obviously Maharaj was coming for an operation, and Shruti Prabhu and Prabhu just shielded me completely from this worldwide ISKCON, because I didn't know who he was and Radhanath Swami, how important he was. So they didn't even let me know, and they just shielded all these thousands of phone calls and everything else from me. And after the operation, I realized that what I had got into. Whenever I used to meet him, I would ask him, Shruti Prabhu, how are you? I'm good. I don't know how many of you heard this. I'm good. And I realized that he was good till he said that. And I think the last time he said that was probably on the 13th of February. And towards the end of the February, he wanted to say, the moment it was a reflex on him, I'm good. But the end of February, he said, I am, and then he stopped. And that's why I knew that he's withdrawing himself. We became very close. We shared hours and hours of intimate moments, whether it was stopping at Buckland's, when we were going to Buckland's, stopping at the services and having things, Pranamantu, we are smiling, or the hours of intimate talks, loving exchanges. Every third day he'll call me if I hadn't called him, and says, what's going on? So I'll give him a whole report and he'll give me his report. And I used to say to him once, I said, whom do you reveal your heart to? And he looked at me in my eyes and he said, you. And I said, okay. But he knew me, he was so caring. I remember that when one of the management meetings that I was really very, very low because somebody had really offended me big time. And he realized that, and that night after the meeting, he drove to my house and sat with me and just talked to me because he knew that I was in pain. He was just knew him inside out. And he discovered something in me that I also did not know. I had a very bad phase for 3.5 years when I was going through a legal case, and he realized that if I heard a bad news, I would take 24 hours to rebound back. So he would not call me for 24 hours. The moment the 24 hours are over, he'll call me. So he knew that I could talk sense. And I now realize that that's actually true, that I take about 24 hours to rebound back. But that's how true mentor he was. In Hindi, there's a saying that, which I'll translate in English. It's saying that how a blind man is taking the other blind man to cross the road, as in, both are equally useless. So we were looking at succession planning. And there were two individuals in this manner who were equally crazy, both him and me, because our working hours were like absolutely crazy hours. So I was given the duty to look at his time schedule and trying to cut it. And of course, this was never going to happen. A standing joke between the both of us was, we always used to laugh and say, who'll go first? And you beat me. He was so proud of my achievements. He was always there. When I was giving my first class at the manor, he was sitting right in the front. He didn't have to, but he was. And he was, he's a true mentor, both for me and my family. And my wife just wrote a piece on on one of the groups that she loved pastimes. He used to always tell her pastime, but she didn't know. He used to always love her food. I'm going to cut it short, and I'm going to tell you, 2 years ago, he was, a lot of people don't know, but Srila Prabhu was my patient. And one day he came to my clinic and said, I'm just having a little bit of headache. How many of us do get headaches? All of us, all the time. And I said, you know what? You're too important. Let me get a scan. He said, no, don't be crazy. I said, no, let's get a scan. And I forgot about it. And about a week later, one of these professors from Edinburgh called me. And he said, did you request the scan? And I had actually forgotten. I said, did I? And he said, yes, you did. And this is the finding. And I was in front of the computer. And I said, can't be Srila Prabhu. I didn't give a death sentence to him. I gave it to myself. Something in me died that day. So I said, okay, I'm going to beat it. He was not keen, but I was keen to beat the disease. I went around the world to just get the treatment for him. But I knew, I was losing the battle. I apologize to Mataji. I remember this story about Alexander. That when malaria hit him and he was going to die, one of the 3 conditions he said, that the 4 doctors who looked after me should be carrying my coffin to prove that doctors can't do anything. And that's what Srila Prabhu did. He showed us that we can't do anything. But one thing I would say, he was in full control. The last month, he withdrew himself. He would not have gone unless he would have withdrawn himself. He kept going. I was going to India on the 8th of December, and I recorded a video. He made a promise to me, I will be there, and we'll both go into Haveli together. So I've got that video with me. Srutidharma Prabhu, I promise we will go into Haveli when you return from India, and we'll open it together. And he just waited for the day of opening. It didn't happen, but he waited for that day. But in the end, he withdrew himself. and he folded his pastimes. For me, that tells me how wonderful Vaishnava he was. You've heard all heard of his qualities. I'm not going to repeat them because there are just so many. But he was my dearest friend and my mentor. I don't have anybody to go to. But wait for me there. Don't go away. I'll come. Hare Krishna.
Akundati, I wondered if you'd be ready. Okay, we'll have Vishwambar, old friend of Srutidharma for many, many years, Vishwambar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Yoga Yuta Vishuddhatma Vijitatma Chitendriya Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma Kurvana Pinalipyate. The translation was already given by Mother Vishaka Prabhu at the breaking of the ceremony. One who acts always with a devotion is very dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Everybody speaks about their relationship with the Srutidharma Prabhu, and we are all on the same page. He had something wonderful. I've been confined, in my house since I came back from India, because I've been traveling in India, and so the health service, all our neighbors, they advised to stay for 1 week or 10 days. But I've been, because one of my neighbor lost his life, as you all know, and his son is in the intensive care. So I've been thinking a lot about Shruti Prabhu, my friend. We are all on the same page. We all feel the same. What was special about him is that he made me feeling always important. Every year on my birthday, as soon as I wake up in the morning, 4 o'clock, 4:30, there was a message on my phone, "Happy birthday," from Shruti. It was always the first one. And then there was a message, "Please come to my office. There is some mail for you." And the wife of Radha Mohan Prabhu, Vrajavasini, his secretary, she would deliver me. I would go there and she would give me this mail. I thought it was something from the temple, but it was an envelope with the money. He would write a little note. "You're doing great work for Srila Prabhupada. And on behalf of Srila Prabhupada, I want to thank you." And from his own pocket, he would give me a large amount of money, I would say. More than any family or friends. And this was every year. And I said, "Well, why? Why are you doing this?" And I felt obliged to give him things as well. And he said, "Because you are my friend. Because I know it must have been difficult for you." It really went right inside my chest. I remember once he said, "It must have been difficult for you to leave Italy, your family, all your friends. You come here, and you would wonder sometimes, being sandwiched between Gujarati and British and Italian." He said, "You are in no man's land, but I am your friend. I understand you." I felt this man is my teacher. I've learned a lot from him. There is a say, no man is my friend, no man is my enemy, but every man is my teacher. Shruti was actually, in one sense, one of my greatest head teacher, because he had a PhD on love and compassion. I've learned a lot from him. He invited me in his confidence, in his heart. Last year, not this marathon, the marathon before, he invited me to his house during the marathon, and there was 200-300 devotees packed up. And he asked Prashun and Prana Prabhu to call me and sit on his sofa next to him. And I said, no, Prana should be sitting there. He's given you your life, his friendship, his brotherhood. So they had to practically grab me there. He said, no, he put a hand on my shoulder. And he had a Gonitai deities in front of everyone. He said, I want everyone to know that Vishwambar is very dear to me. And then he asked me to talk to the devotees. And he asked me to sing the Gauraharti to Gonitai. And when he was talking, he had my hand in his hands. And he wouldn't let me go. I felt so nervous. I was grabbed away by his love. So I cried for you, Shruti Prabhu. Sorry I couldn't be there for your funeral. I phoned Kandari Prabhu and I explained why I was not there. I cried for you, I cried for my next door neighbors, I cried for the people dying in Italy, in China, everywhere. You are a very courageous man. The last word I would say that on the last time I saw you in the temple, in the wheelchair, you asked Sutapa to call me and sing for you, sing in front of Radha Gokulananda, the Hare Krishna mantra. So I did it for you. And then you grabbed my hand and he said, you know, I may be bumping into Tamal Krishna Maharaj soon. Do you have any message for him? And Krishna Dharma Prabhu I said, no, he's got Prabhupada. He's okay. You know, you stay here with us. He was very, jolly, joking, not afraid of dying. Very good soldiers of Srila Prabhupada, and that's why everyone loves him. He was a very selfless devotee. He was always giving, and that was his happiness. But not just to few of us, to everybody, to everyone. And I want to thank Shruti and Prana Prabhu. If you scratch the walls of this Haveli, you would find actually their blood in it. And of course there is a sacrifice of many of you. Kandari Prabhu is given his youth. But Shruti and Prana, they've been very much committed to the service of the deities, to all of us, and to the preaching, to bring people in to come and help. So I want to thank you on behalf of Srila Prabhupada for all your service that you have done, and thank you for accepting me in your family as an outsider. I should have been serving in Italy, but I am here, and I'm happy to be with all of you. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Shruti had a great love for cows, and he encouraged our next contributor in his service to the cows. Please welcome Srutidharma Prabhu.
Thank you. maybe not so much about cows. We spoke about cows, but I think my relationship with Srutidharma goes back a few more years, and we've seen many faces of Srutidharma this evening and his relationship with different devotees. But for me, my inspiration was Srutidharma the preacher, because from the early days that when I also joined the temple, we were staying in the same room. He would be sleeping on the bottom bed, bunk bed, Drakapuri above him, Jivapati next to him, and I'd be there by the floor. And he always set the example. He was the perfect example in so many ways. And for me, my drive and preaching spirit come from Srutidharma Prabhu. He was from the early days when we were doing our Manor Youth Forum programs, and he remembered that he would always speak about how they joined a candidate with the Mahabharata Youth Club. So he would be encouraging us with the Manor Youth Forum, and would do these programs and would have these fun times. And he would always be there preaching to people right at the end. Would be sitting down, talking after everybody had gone. Would have a feast ourselves, and would talk about the evening and how it went. And then on a Sunday evening, would find young people. He'd always encourage us to find young people. Would take them to Prabhupada's room, speak to them personally, give them a little association, and then would come down at the end of the evening after everybody's gone. Would have a feast with them, and so he had this spirit of cultivation. And he did it with families, he did it with all sorts of people, but my relationship in those early days was working with young people, university programs. We went around with this group across the UK to different temples, and there was some Hindu programs that they would have. And he would, somehow he was always the speaker, he would inspire people, and people would always remember Srutidharma. So it was always very, very impressive. And subsequently, after the Manor Youth Forum came and went, we had the Pandavasena, and he, the same way, cultivated a new generation of devotees. He was always the connecting factor. And he set the standard, he set the bar. The things he said, we would learn, we would preach in a similar spirit. So he had this real ability to somehow capture the essence. And for me, I remember many, many years ago, when in the ashram, he would be sitting on a chair beside his bed after everything had been finished, and he would have his earphones and he'd be listening to a Prabhupada lecture. And he knew which things to quote, when to quote them. Somehow he captured that spirit of Prabhupada, really captured it. And that's why when the Bhaktivedanta players would have these plays and he would play Prabhupada, he really emulated that, really perfectly. That spirit, that preaching spirit was really always there. And I'd never seen that video just now, Give Your Life to Krishna. He was a preacher through and through. And for me, that's what I admired and inspired me most throughout his life. Every situation, at Janmastamis, the first to get up, the last to go to sleep. He was there setting an example, really going through all of these different things and walking his talk like nobody else would be. And he would find his times, I mean, I don't know how and when, we would be doing japa in the morning, and it was always difficult. In the early days when Shiva Maharaj would be sitting there and we would be talking, we would be chanting, and he would be chanting japa, and we would start talking. And we knew that Maharaj didn't like talking, but somehow Srutidharma was preaching, and he'd be inspiring different devotees, and still he'd be chanting and finishing his rounds before any of us. So he somehow set an example and always inspired us. And I think the last time I saw him, unfortunately he was sleeping. But before that, every time, even whilst during his illness, you would go and see him. And no matter who walked through that door, he would be, he'd be glorifying them. He'd be looking at their qualities, the positive, the lovely qualities, and bringing them out. So he had that spirit, that ability, and he, at that time, he was just speaking from his heart. And, he'd capture that spirit. So, and probably Pranabandhu knows more than anybody else. He was always pulling on those things. But he had that other light side. He managed to weigh up things and see the best in everything, and also inspire people. So Srutidharma the preacher, ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Throughout his last months, Shruti was cared for by a dedicated team, and we're about to meet some of them. Gauri Prabhu will introduce us to Mary and KK and Philip. So we'd like to welcome them onto the stage.
Come, stand here, ladies. Come on. Aren't these ladies looking absolutely beautiful? I had the great fortune of speaking at the crematorium, so although I have so many more things to say, I won't be speaking tonight, but I wanted to introduce these two ladies. But first, just a mention for Philip, who's not with us. You probably saw Philip taking Shruti Prabhu around all the time. He's a giant in stature and physique, and his heart and how he served Shruti Prabhu was an example to any devotee. He's not here with us this evening. He said he would come, but I know he's going through his own grieving very deeply. And but however, and Dhruva, as we know him, Dhruva is also part of the professional care team. He was here, and I said, "You better come up here, Dhruva." And Dhruva said, "Okay, all right, okay." And then just shortly before, he said, "I just have to nip off now." So I think it's a lot to come up and speak about Shruti Prabhu. So, first of all, KK and Mary, the professional care team. When Shruti Prabhu was in the Karuna care home, my shift was in the mornings, and I'd come in the mornings, and it was generally quite a very still atmosphere, and he'd be resting, and the day would gradually begin, and it was difficult, and I was feeling it difficult. And then one morning I walked in, and I saw this new person who was the night carer sitting in the chair near the bed. The lights were on, and Shruti Prabhu was sitting up in his chair, having his breakfast, and the two of them were watching the BBC News. And I was like, what? Wow! And I realized from that moment, this woman's a force of nature. Immediately, Sri Radhika said KK should train all of us. So we had a training session. Even Sundarananda Prabhu, all the doctors were there as well, getting trained up by KK with regards to taking care of Shruti Prabhu. So she's going to speak first, but first let me just say some words about Mary. Mary began the night care, was it here? At the annex, or Gokulananda. And at that time, I'd moved into the annex just to settle everything in. And so I'd be here in service all day, I'd nip home, and then come back, I'd get to sit with sometimes KK, sometimes Mary. And Mary really brought the power of prayer into our evenings. You know, they're both extremely dedicated Christians, and their standard of care for Shruti Prabhu, believe me, I learned so much about service. And we'd always say to Mary, "Mary, did you pray for us last night?" We had Mary praying for all of us, Shruti Prabhu as well, and we'd always insist upon her prayers. So it was a real deep spiritual presence that was in our company, teaching us many things about love and service. So, first of all, KK.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I work for a company called 4319 Fountain Care. I met Shruti about a year ago at the Acarya of Manor care home, and I was privileged to be part of the team that cared for him in the last year of his life. I'd never heard of Shruti before this time, and I had little knowledge about Hinduism. But the moment I met Shruti, I knew he was a very special and spiritual man. Shruti shared many stories with me, and most of it was centered around serving others. On many occasions on his sickbed, I would find him talking about service to others. He He would talk about the various projects he still had to execute. One that readily comes to my mind is the Old People's Home, a place he wanted elderly monks and devotees to be cared for in their old age. I would often ask Shruti if he would let me manage the home, and he would answer, "Of course, KK, I'll let you be the manager." Shruti was very humorous. I would often find myself always chuckling very loudly to his jokes in the middle of the night. He never complained, even when it was apparent he was experiencing some discomfort. This, however, kept me on my toes, as I then had to anticipate his needs. It was clear Shruti was a peaceful man. He would always comply with my requests when I told him I could get into trouble if he didn't. It was an absolute pleasure and privilege to have been of service to Shruti. By this service, I've gained a whole new family, the ISKCON Watford family. Thank you all for creating the wonderful environment, the annex, where we cared for Shruti. Shruti was very comfortable, and we could not have asked for a better place to serve. The quality of care Shruti received from the whole team looking after him was second to none, and I pray this serves as consolation to all. In Sruti's last days, he gave me his blessings. And in the Christian faith, the blessings of a spiritual father I held in high regard, and I cherish these blessings. Once again, I would like to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve and for accepting me into your family. Hare Krishna.
It was an absolute honor to look after Mr. Patel, as we popularly called him. As I was looking after Mr. Patel's physical needs, he was teaching me to be more humble, courageous, and to see the world from a different light, teaching me not to complain, to keep smiling, and to be thankful. Thank you, Mrs. Patel, for allowing me to look after your husband. Thank you, all the devotees that created a good atmosphere for us to look after Mr. Patel. On one occasion, I explained to Mr. Patel how we use the word chief in Nigeria to address important men. And I informed him that I would start addressing him as Chief Srutidharma Prabhu from that moment, as he is a very important man. Through the past year, Mr. Patel often made me laugh with joy, making me sing Hare Krishna song with my awful funny voice. Mr. Patel will dance to my Hare Krishna song by moving his head from side to side and beaming with smiles. I remember vividly one fateful night after delivering personal care at 3 a.m. Mr. Patel called me by my name and said, "Mary, I do not have anything to give to you, but I give you all my blessings." And I was so thankful. I was so moved to the extent that tears began flowing down. There are so many beautiful things I have to say, but I understand my time is limited, so I will finish with this song. It is a song I often sang with Mr. Patel. In the morning on that fateful day, KK Philip and I shared this same song with him, and he acknowledged it by opening his eyes wide. You may join me if you... Kumbaya, Lord, Kumbaya. Kumbaya, Lord, Kumbaya. Kumbaya, Lord, Kumbaya. Oh, Lord, Kumbaya. Kumbaya, Lord, Kumbaya. Kumbaya, Lord, oh, Kumbaya. Kumbaya, Lord, Kumbaya. Oh, Oh Lord, Kumbaya.
We now hear from someone whose name, just like Prana's name, Shruti and Prana. We also have the other two names that were very closely associated for all meetings, late nights, fundraising campaigns, Kilimanjaro walks, and all special occasions. We've heard from Kaushik. Now we shall hear from Dilip Prabhu.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Hare Krishna, everyone. Srutidharma Prabhu, my mentor, guru, brother, and a very good friend. I first met Shruti Prabhu and Pranabandhu Prabhu at our shop in Willesden. They would come for the annual adverts in the annual diary. They must have come several times during the day, but we didn't have any time for them. They soon worked out, let's go at closing times. And they started coming at closing times. And I avoided them. I wanted to get home. I was hungry. But Dad had time for them. I liked visiting the manor. It was a nice day out in the country. There was something special about this place. On one such occasion, there was a festival at the temple, and Pranabandhu Prabhu was running a snack stall in the circle in those days. We ordered some chips, and he was struggling and asked him if he needed any help. What a wrong question to ask. 37 years on, and I haven't stopped. From there, we built a relationship, and we started visiting regularly on Sunday evenings. We would attend the Gaur Aarti at 7 p.m., and then wait until the 9 o'clock Aarti, and then spend that time in between in the beautiful reception that we had. Very much like Buckland, with a nice fire, nice sofas. And Shruti Prabhu would spend hours reasoning with us and the family who the personality of Godhead is. We'd always argue, it's not Krishna, you guys have got it wrong. In time, they won us over, and the rest is history. Shruti Prabhu cared for me more than a brother and a friend. He was a true guru. When I first met Shruti Prabhu, I was an arrogant and egoistic businessman. Still am, a little less maybe. I thought I was the most successful in my field amongst the Indian community, but then I was wrong. Today I realize that if I hadn't met Shruti Prabhu, I would have lived and died as an ordinary businessman who had money without meaning and purpose. Shruti Prabhu held my hand from the early 80s and has not once let go of me. Through thick and thin, you have taught me the meaning of life, to live with love and compassion, and to serve Srila Prabhupada's mission. You have given us so much of your time at the expense of your family and your time. It's been a difficult 2 years since I first got the call from Sundarananda Prabhu, who informed me of the diagnosis. I've lost my Sunday morning chanting partner, my go-to person for any temple or personal issues. But my 2 days of caring for you have been so wonderful. I always look forward to Wednesdays and Saturdays. Now that's even gone. Don't know what now. You have been a good teacher, so hopefully I will learn to live from your memories. You always told me, you have one life, give it to Prabhupada. Hopefully I don't let you down. Thank you, Shruti Prabhu, for coming in my life. Hare Krishna.
Shruti was a great inspiration. Having been a young monk, a brahmachari, sadhu here at the temple for many, many years, he knew what it took to keep to the rigorous, disciplined lifestyle in the ashram. So he was always able to be on hand to give encouragement to the other brahmacharis. And our head brahmachari and head preacher is here today to share what he was given by Shruti. Please welcome His Grace Srutapa Prabhu.
It's a good mic stand. Hare Krishna. Srutidharma Prabhu ki. I once actually said to Srutidharma Prabhu, Prabhuji, I don't like speaking publicly. He said, don't worry, no one listens anyway. We are made of Shri Prabhu's mercy entirely, completely. When I think of Shri Prabhu, this story always reminds me of him. It's the ancient story of a sage who used to go to the river to take his bath every day. And as he would go to the river, then there would be, as he was bathing, there would be a scorpion. And the scorpion was drowning. So as the sage, in his infinite compassion and care and kindness, as he would be bathing, seeing this scorpion drowned, and the sage would pick up the scorpion. And as soon as picking up the scorpion would bite. And the sage would let go. And then again the scorpion would be drowning, and then again the sage would go up and get bitten by the scorpion. And then an onlooker said, why are you picking up the scorpion? You know it will bite you. And the sage, in his infinite compassion, said, no problem. It's the nature of the scorpion to bite, and it's my nature to serve. And therefore, just as the scorpion cannot avoid biting, how can I avoid an opportunity to serve? So Srutidharma Prabhu was just the embodiment of service. Service was his life. He lived, breathed, and just completely exuded Seva Bhav. If we would tell Shruti Prabhu there's a program on, he would be ready to go. If he heard about a project, he would be ready to do it. If there was some opportunity of service, he would just be completely enthused. Shruti Prabhu was in this building morning to evening, day after day. He was at every program. He was at every one ceremony. He was at every meeting. One time I said to Shruti Prabhu, why are you going to all these meetings? Even small meetings. Because I was the opposite to Shruti Prabhu, like escape every single meeting. I said, Prabhuji, you don't need to go to this meeting. And you know what he said to me? He said, no, I want to go to that meeting because I want everyone in that meeting to know that their service is important. And I thought, oh my God, I've never thought about a meeting like that. He would turn up to a meeting just so that the others in that room knew that what they were doing was valued. Srila Prabhu was incredible. He, every evening, and I'm remembering it now because it's about 8 o'clock now, every Sunday evening after Gaura Arati, just about this time, I would go up to Srila Prabhu's office, and every Sunday evening, he would we would sit in his office and he would tell me all the crazy things going on at the manor. And we would laugh. He used to say, you don't have to be mad to join ISKCON, but it helps. And he would just, for the whole evening, we would just laugh and laugh and laugh, and he would tell me, like, what do I do in this situation? And then I'd leave the room and he'd say, Sutapa, thanks for being my counselor. I said, Srila Prabhu, I didn't do anything, I just listened to you. He said, yeah, that's what counselors get paid for. So, Srila Prabhu was such a Vaishnava because he understood the identity of being a Das. Even, I remember when we were in the hospital once, I was sitting next to him and I kind of put my hand out to him to, just hold his hand. And then as soon as I held his hand, he began massaging me. And just at that point, someone called me. So I said, I'm with Srila Prabhu. Oh, he said, oh, what's Srila Prabhu doing? I said, he's massaging me. He said, are you in hospital or is he in hospital? I said, yeah, he's massaging me. We would go into the annex in the morning, and as I would walk in, the first thing he would say, Sutapa, who are we meeting today? So, who's on the agenda? Who are we meeting? We say, Srila Prabhu, do you want to go to take darshan? Do you want to go to the Goshala? Do you want to stay in? His reply was, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? I said, no, Srila Prabhu, we're here to serve you. What do you want to do? He said, I'll do what you tell me to do. Because he was a servant. Such a servant. So we are made of his mercy. I'm here because of Srila Prabhu. When I wanted to join, as Gauri Prabhu and others know, it was a big drama with my parents. Srila Prabhu got me out of the mess. He said, I'm not going to let you miss this opportunity. So my parents, hopefully they're not listening online, saying in a public forum. My parents were fully against it. Srila Prabhu said, no, this is your destiny, you have to do this. So I said, Srila Prabhu, what are you going to do? We've got to come up with a plan. You've got to pacify them. I can't pacify them. He said, don't worry, I'll tell them that we're employing you for 6 months as the IT maintenance at the manor. I said, Srila Prabhu, I'm on the Bhakta program cleaning the corridors. I'm not IT maintenance. He said, no, IT maintenance, interior temple maintenance. So I said, Srila Prabhu, I don't think this is going to work. He said, no, let's just run with it. Let's go with it. So he told my dad, no, we want him IT maintenance. There's a big multi-million Goshala project coming up. We want Sandeep, that was my name. We want him to be at the center of it. Few days later, my dad turned up to the BMF office with a contract. It was like a legal contract. And it had written, he will stay for the period of 6 months from this day to this day. And my dad said to Srila Prabhu, I want you to sign this. So Srila Prabhu just signed it. And forgot about it. Recently I told him, Srila Prabhu, my dad's still after you on that contract. It's nearly 20 years overdue. And then one time I was with Srila Prabhu and we were watching Radhanath Maharaj's parents talk about their reunion with Radhanath Maharaj. And right in the middle of the video, Srila Prabhu looked at me and he said, do you know what we put our parents through? I said, yeah, it was all your plan. He said, we put our parents through so much, but we did it for the movement, for the purpose of giving Krishna consciousness. So some things have to be done. So Srila Prabhu was our life and soul. How can life ever quite be the same without Shruti Prabhu? How will the manor ever quite be the same without Shruti Prabhu? I can't imagine that on my phone I will never see Shruti Prabhu's name and number coming up. When his name would come on my phone, I would have mixed feelings because I was like, now I can associate with a sadhu. I was so happy. But then I also thought, oh my God, this phone call is going to involve some element of surrender, some element of sacrifice. So I once said to Shruti Prabhu, Prabhuji, I have to admit to you, sometimes I didn't pick up your calls. I always returned them after I psyched myself up for what I was about to hear. Shruti Prabhu, I owe my life to you. I'm a fool, but you made some use out of me. And we're all blessed. We think that the saints are people of the past. We walk and live and function amongst saints. And Shruti Prabhu was a saint. And for me, the motto, Shruti Prabhu once said to me, don't try to be happy. Just try to serve. And it was such a simple statement, but for me it summed up the very essence of his existence. Don't try to be happy. Just try to serve, because if you serve, you will find happiness. And that was Shruti Prabhu's life. Such a Vaishnav, we're blessed. We're blessed to walk among such a person. I'll never forget him. Srutidharma Prabhu ki jai.
It was the nature of Shruti to create a sense of urgency in spiritual life. As Prabhuji was saying, you must become Krishna conscious and you must do it now. There's no time to waste. And that's part of the appeal of spiritual life to young people, of course. And it also leads us into exciting adventures sometimes. And one person who was there with Shruti on a lot of adventures and is still on an adventure is our next speaker, Ajay Kumar.
It's difficult coming on after the tallest Brahmin in the ashram. Hare Krishna. I'm going to speak about the festivals. The festivals here at Bhaktivedanta Manor. So festivals, Srila Prabhupada describes festivals as the mothers of devotion. And His Grace Pranabandhu Prabhu reminds me of that every year. Here at Bhaktivedanta Manor, we've created huge assemblies of this devotion. We're able to engage people through sight, through sound, through taste. It's colourful, it's big. From the boys and girls that park the cars, and they did it today. From the team that stand all day on their feet in the darshan, during the darshan queues. From the kitchen making preps, and to the servers that say Hare Krishna to every single person that they're giving prasad to. These are all instruments, these people are all instrumental in the inspiration that Srutidharma Prabhu gave to them. And that was given because Srutidharma was following Srila Prabhupada. And that's what we all did. Srutidharma used to say to me, Aj, as long as you have car park, you have darshan, and you have prasad, everything else will follow. And that's the way we did it. And Srutidharma had this unique way of making doctors pizza sellers. He made accountants sweepers, you know? He made project managers just pour out water to serve. He made estate agents into designers that did print and put up banners. We all did it. Somewhere along the way, Srutidharma or Pranabandhu got you to do something you'd never do in your life. He had Brahmins driving forklifts, you know? That was the power of what he did. Who thought two boys from Preston Manor could affect so many people over 35 to 40 years? Under their leadership, under Srutidharma's leadership, volunteers have become disciples. We've got leaders that started out on that field in the Jamashmi field. We got preachers and stalwarts in our community, all because whether they saw what was going to happen ahead, I don't know, but somehow they just offered you an opportunity. If you came here on your first day, you probably were sweeping, or you're putting up a light, or you picked up a big drill that you've never picked up before in your life, and somehow we managed to do it. And in the evenings, the beauty of Srutidharma Prabhu was, in the evenings, Srutidharma was there. He had a knack of being everywhere during a festival. He'd be there in the volunteer evenings, in his crisp dhoti. If there was a Swami in town, he'd take him round to meet everyone. And how inspired you felt when you saw Srutidharma walking up with Radha Swami or Bhaktivedanta Swami, and you tried that little bit harder, right? You just saw like being really humble at the back of the queue, but your head's nodding away, see if they come over to you. But he did that. And then in the mornings, he had his khaki pants on, and he was picking up boxes. It's just amazing to see, and it was very inspiring to see. And when it came to leadership, leaders, they inspire, they engage you, they find your talents, but they also leave a legacy. Who's going to continue? What's been left in that place? But also part of that leadership is who's going to pick up the baton. There are many of us who are getting that opportunity, and now we owe it to Srutidharma to pick up that baton and take it to the next phase. One thing for me personally on the festivals, every Sunday Janmashtami, Srutidharma would find me and he would say, Aj, we need to go and check all the tents. So we'd visit every tent. And afterwards he'd say to me, is that what you wanted? What could you have done better? But that's not going to happen anymore. On the 27th of December 2019, it was the night before Gita Jayanti, and we prepped the tent. It was our first event in the Haveli. And after the devotees left, I closed the light and I sat in the reception. And I wished for one thing, and that was Srutidharma to walk through the door and just say, Aj, are you ready? But that ain't never going to happen. But with this Haveli, I've been given this opportunity of Srutidharma. I'm going to do my hardest to make it happen. And with the support of devotees, we'll make that happen. And Srutidharma, I want to see you again, but not in the spiritual world. I want to be on the battlefield, and I want to be in your army, and I want to be fighting for Srila Prabhupada. Because if there's one thing I would say about Srutidharma, is that he came, he saw, and he's conquered. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajay. Please let us welcome to the stage His Grace Bhuta Bhavana Prabhu.
Gyanatamurandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshum Militamyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, dear Srutidharma Prabhu, we are gathered here in glorification of you and the wonderful legacy that you've left all of us in the form of this vibrant, innovative, revolutionary community. I wanted to address you directly at this time to say what I'd never really expressed properly, which is a real heartfelt expression of gratitude for all the wonderful association and example that you gave to myself and so many in our community, not just in the Bhaktivedanta community, but the entire ISKCON community, and I would even say the entire world. I have extremely fond memories of spending time with you when we went together to different house programs with Pranabandhu, sometimes Sutapa as well. And what always amazed me was your personalism. What always amazed me was your as so many have explained, deep, genuine, heartfelt, caring compassion. And what always inspires me is how the seeds of your compassion are constantly growing and developing in the form of such a wonderful congregation, wonderful projects, wonderful initiatives. And I was thinking about you as being, I think Akandadi said, a master harmonizer. And I really see that again and again. And I would sometimes just watch you in awe and think, how does he do that? How is it that he's able to say this one thing to this person, give a nudge to this person, put an idea towards this person, and everything just harmonized? And I was in awe of you. I was in awe of how someone could be so selfless, so giving, so caring, so dynamic in so many ways. I remember once we were going through a program. Pranabandhu was driving, Shruti, you were sitting next to him in the front of the car. I was sitting behind you, so we'd go to these different houses and give different presentations and so on. And I remember you turned around and you looked at me at the back seat. And when you looked at me, I almost felt like something in my mind was as if a camera just flashed, just taking a picture of whatever's on my mind at the time to see what is that rascal Bhuta Bhavana up to. And it was amazing because there were so many times in which I felt that you would say or do or know something about me, and I'd just think, how does he know that? How does he understand that about me? Your legacy is constantly growing and expanding in terms of the love that you gave to so many of us. I remember when my own spiritual master was preparing to leave, I was bewildered. I didn't know what to do. And I spoke to you about it. And then you gave me the advice, which eventually led to me leaving the country to go and spend that time with him before he left the planet. And had it not been from your guidance, these really wonderful, amazing, and just completely transcendental interventions in my life and in the life of so many others, I don't know where we would be. I personally feel bad that I feel I didn't get to say goodbye properly. I hope that somehow, by the mercy of Krishna, the devotees, that I'm able to say a proper goodbye before I leave also. But I wanted to say from the heart, thank you for everything. Thank you for the guidance I didn't appreciate properly. Thank you for the wonderful example that constantly lives on in the form of all the devotees at Bhaktivedanta Manor. Thank you for your care, your insight, and the time. I never understood how you made so much time for so many of us. But when I see you, I see the example of a real and great devotee. So as we all gather here, we have two emotions. We celebrate in joy because you've gone back to Krishna, and we cry because we don't have that same access to your association. Okay, we beg you for your kind blessings so that we can also follow in your footsteps and also be that example of selfless love and devotion. Srutidharma Prabhu ki jai.
Thank you, Bhuta Bhavana. We'll now have a short video.
And really, the Pandavasena was about the campaign. And just as, all of us have to make our mark in devotion, whether it's small or large, I don't think it matters. But we have to get onto the ladder of devotion, and Srila Prabhupada's family, by doing something, by spreading Krishna consciousness in the capacity that we have. I do recall when, after the 10 years of the campaign, Kandari was the weary soldier, the weary general who had fought so hard. And when we did win the campaign, Shivaram Swami was just recollecting that how Prabhupada would be so pleased that he had made that effort through all the difficulties and tribulations. And he recollects that Prabhupada would be saying very much, calling him into Prabhupada's rooms upstairs. Prabhupada's rooms upstairs are so sacred, and calling him and saying and blessing him. And Shivaram Swami said that he has earned his ticket back home, back to Godhead. So all of us, whether we do something amazing like that, or we do something, as Lord Ramachandra said to Hanuman, don't become proud. The spider is doing something which he's capable of, but he's doing it fully. So each one of us exert whatever we are capable of doing fully, not leaving any punches behind, then we too can be on that list, on that bus, that ISKCON bus, which leaves very frequently back to Goloka Vrindavan. We can board it, and our name will be on that check-off list when it takes off. Go to Premanande. Srila Prabhupada.
Haveli is an opportunity to bring together our community for more and more activities of education, of culture, kirtan, and spiritual rejuvenation.
All glory is to George Harrison. You have given us this center. Krishna will give you shelter at his lotus feet. We shall pray always like that.
I look at what you've done in the last 50 years, and I think how much you can achieve in the next 50. In fact, the next half century starts right now as we begin building the new spiritual hall, the Krishna Haveli.
The completion of the Haveli marks the final stages of Srila Prabhupada's dream here at Bhaktivedanta Manor. In 1973, Srila Prabhupada had blessed George Harrison for giving shelter to all of us. Certainly, Srila Prabhupada will bless all of us for completing the Sri Krishna Haveli for future generations.
300 square feet in the green belt, in the conservation area, next to a listed building. It was a miracle.
I'm inspired by the work of this temple and the community here, and it's not only a place of great spirituality, of course, that attracts tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, but it's also the centre of lots and lots of community organisation, community activity, bringing people together in all sorts of ways. And so it's very exciting to see this Haveli that has been, I think it's almost complete.
The Haveli that you are creating is a centre for the whole community, and I congratulate you on the incredible Sri Krishna Haveli that you're building. Amazing to see.